Welcome, everybody, to the BIDE podcast, the podcast of Barcelona International Dance Exchange. Today, in episode number 147, we are with Valerio Verzin. Welcome, Valerio. We're so happy that you're joining us today. And I thought we'd just start with letting our visitors know whereabouts you are in the world. Where do we find you today? Can you paint us a picture, please?
Well, thank you a lot for having me, Zoe. It's a pleasure being here and chatting with you. I'm actually right now in Italy, Sicily, on Mount Etna, which is the highest volcano in Europe. Sounds fancy.
That's a pretty impressive beginning. Okay, so paint a picture. What's your view? How is that for you in Italy right now on Mount Etna?
It is kind of odd because I'm not originally from Sicily. I relocated here 8 years ago now. I was born in northern Italy, close to Verona. So what at first was like a massive cultural shock to me, it has become, and I now feel it as my home. So I found the perfect balance with the natural dimension of the space I live in and the connection, the human connection, with the people who inhabit this beautiful island. So yeah, I couldn't be happier, actually.
Beautiful. I mean, it sounds amazing, and it's one place that I definitely would love to visit. And it's pretty much the coolest introduction in terms of where are you that I think I've encountered on these podcasts. So thank you. So hopefully we'll learn a bit more about your context as we go through the podcast, but we're super happy that you're with us today. And let's start by your own introduction. So often people will do long introductions about who their guests are. And obviously we're super privileged to have you with us right now. But from your words, who is Valerio Verzin? How would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Okay, so I'm a curator in the field of performing arts. I have been doing that for quite some years now, even though I'm 32 years old. And yeah, as I said, when I came to Sicily, I was actually at that time working as a producer. And I understood that what I wanted to do was really putting the audience at the heart of you know the the connection between the works of art. And so yeah, I decided to stay, and we are now together with my team organizing 3 festivals a year. So yeah, I mean, we feel very young, and we still have those kind of energy that really motivates us in doing and pursuing what we are trying to do. Yes.
Absolutely, you are still young, 100%, and it sounds like you must be pretty busy with the 3 festivals in the year. When do they fall in the year?
So the main one happens in July. It has just ended, actually.
Mhm.
Just like 10 days. It's super busy. It's a lot of performances. We also have an international short performance competition, and we have presenters and critics coming from all around the world and a lot of volunteers. So it's mainly about really bringing people together on Mount Etna and discuss and exchange and meet the performing arts. Whereas the 2 other festival, the first one happens in springtime and the second one in autumn, and they are more like spread out and diffused. So we also travel a lot throughout Sicily, and we try to connect with different target audience. And almost 99% of what we do is admission free. So it's really important for us to really offer something to the audience, especially since we are on an island. So sometimes the cultural offering these people are having is the only cultural offering they can ever experience. And so it is a big responsibility.
Absolutely. And I mean, actually, the next question is about what you feel you're bringing to the performing arts ecosystem where you're based. So can you expand on that? It sounds like you're bringing basically the culture on some levels. I'm sure there's much more as well. But yeah, how do you feel you're impacting your ecosystem with what you do?
Mhm. So on the programming side, we are really trying to focus on contemporary languages, which means especially research-based and experimental dance, especially as there are no other occasion basically for Sicilian people to attend. such works. But then what we really try to do, especially during the summer festival, which is called Teatri Riflessi Festival, is having artists, people from the community, as well as presenters and professionals from all around the world to just stay for a long time here. So it's not just about having artists coming, presenting their work, and leaving, but we really ask them to stay here for at least 1 week, which is a lot of time. And I mean, the beautiful Sicily helps us in retaining them here. But at the same time, it's a great way to promote connection and to have them really explore, experience the territory and leaving somehow traces here. But it has to do also with an ecology, as it is basically impossible to come here by train, or it takes like days. So it makes sense for us to have them stay as long as possible and really leverage their visit here in a way. Did I
Absolutely. I love the idea. Yeah, I love the idea of the traces that are left as well. And could you maybe just, and this idea of the ecology, because I think, yeah, that's one thing from our own experience as well, with the connections that come from festivals and from encouraging mobility and exchange with performing arts. So yeah, how do you feel? Could you give us some examples of those traces and maybe the legacy that you see that you're creating there?
Oh, that's really interesting because this year theme of what we're doing is actually legacy. This is the key
Ah,
word. We're actually using it. And we tried not to look at the word as simply like a mere connection to the past, but actually a way to imagine the future.
mm,
Um, so what we really try and do is promoting an access to the performing arts. Our target audience is really heterogeneous, and we mainly aim at like people who are not used to going to the theater, you know. And so we really try and work on the informality in a way of the framework, but at the same time to preserve the quality of the works. Because, I sometimes speak to presenter who are really afraid to show some more like contemporary abstract work to the public. They don't trust the public enough. What we tried to do was like acting the other way around. So we are not scared to present works. It's up to the audience to decide whether they like it or no, which is also something really useful. I mean, I don't like the majority of pieces I see every year. I see a lot of dance, but that gives me a lot to think about. So it's good to have the audience really developing their own taste, being able also to ask questions. So it's not only about attending the performances, but we really try to develop moments and occasions to talk um, to the artist or with other people. So we have groups of people that we ask to attend the festival and just discuss together. I think that's beautiful, you know. Just going to the theater, not feel alone, but as part of like a group of people there, all celebrating the arts together. This is why we do that. So it's a lot of work. It is super busy. You asked before, but it makes sense and it feels so good.
absolutely. It sounds really important. And I think there's something really quite brave, but also essential with giving those opportunities for risk as well, and risk taking, and showing work that challenges perception and perspectives of what performance can be. So it sounds amazing what you're doing and what you're achieving with those festivals. Um, where do you draw inspiration from personally, Valerio? What inspires you? What's really ignites the passion within you, which I can tell is there?
Well, my first inspiration comes from the land, and especially the volcanic earth that is under my feet. So we really feel the energy of this living ecosystem. You know, I come from northern Italy, I told you earlier. Um, there, everything is flat, everything is solid, is rigid, and it stays like that, basically. Here, you see the mountain changing, you see eruption, earthquake. It can be also kind of like scary at times, but still you feel you are really connecting and dialoguing. with a living ecosystem that also reminds you that you are a very small inhabitant of a world. So yeah, this is my main inspiration also in the way we try and design our programs.
That's beautiful. I mean, it sounds so invigorating. And I think that reminder on a daily basis that you are part of something bigger and also part of a land that can be quite unpredictable must be incredibly, yeah, invigorating but scary at the same time. And it sounds like that, yeah, that vibrancy feeds into what you do as well, which is great. Um, so on that at that point, I guess, right now, let's think about immediacy. What do you find yourself questioning at this time in your life? You mentioned earlier that you're 32, which is very young, still a lot ahead, obviously, hopefully. But yeah, where do you feel you are in terms of questions, bigger questions that you're asking in your life? What's perhaps troubling you? What's inspiring you? Um, yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, that's a tough question that we have
It
been
is.
asking ourselves the whole year, actually. And it's a question about the meaning of why
Mm,
we are doing what we are doing, and actually how to also, find the strength to keep on doing something that has to do with the arts in an historic period where you feel like the arts alone and beauty in the world is decreasing, and it's very scarce and can't really solve the big questions and what's happening in terms of wars, conflicts, and violence.
mm,
So we risked actually of really feel lost at some point this year, especially. But then we really tried to go back to the human connection because we think that that's the only thing that can actually save us. And so it does make sense if you have people really try and understand each other, speaking,
hmm
connecting, networking also, but like really sharing the same earth, again, for just few days, I mean, really makes them feel as they're not alone, as they are connected, as they are part of something. And so hopefully, yeah, there's still hope, and we need, actually, we have this urge to go back to what moves us as human beings. So yeah, we are not solving anything, and yeah, terrible things are still happening, and we are angry and furious, and we feel important, but still, this is what we can do, and this is what we should continue doing. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, obviously we work in a similar area in terms of dance. And I think never before has this need for that human connection been so intense and vital. Just a quick question on what you said about we can't solve everything. And I agree, I think that's incredibly difficult. Do you feel like there's a pressure on artists to tackle global issues currently?
Well, there is,
Mm,
especially if you come from certain parts of the world, I would say. And some people think art and politics are two separate things. I actually think the arts are always political. The body is political in a way.
mm,
So, I mean, it's not that you as an artist should always tackle these themes, and that from the work you should be able to recognize this kind of urge. I mean, no, that's not the point. But of course, you are moving and you are navigating a world where these issues are present, and they affect the way you think, the way you work, the way you relate to other people. So yeah, it's almost impossible to ignore what's happening, especially at this point.
absolutely. And I guess if we're responsive artists or if people are responsive artists, that will come out into work in some ways. I guess that's why art can be such an amazing way of tracing history as well, in some ways, seeing where people have responded through their work. Okay, so we're moving to a question about possibility, really. Whenever we host our international exchange annually, we ask the participants what they brought, what they have to leave for other people, and what they'll take. And I guess this is focused on possibilities of what is there for the taking in life, in your world, in your ecosystem. Um, and yeah, so the question, and you can interpret this in any way you wish, is about what you have, what you have to offer. Um, and that might be on a human level. It might be on really looking at your personality. You've got a cracking sense of humor, or it could be something more intense. What you feel you leave people with, and also what you really draw from your ecosystem within which you live. I think we've already started to touch on some of those. So, what do you have? What do you leave for others? And what do you take?
Okay, really tough.
I know. Sorry.
I would say that all revolves around a very simple practice, yet
Mm,
extremely fundamental, which is listening. So this is what I'm trying to do. Just listen for people's needs, artists' needs, professional needs, and trying
mm,
to, in a way, connect them all together. So we also try and figure like a picture this kind of like as a triangle. Okay, there are different perspectives to look at the same thing, and what I try to do, is really like taking into account all different perspectives. So probably I can offer these, and this is also what I want to gather from people. So I'm very curious to know what people think about the arts, about like simply going to the theater, about the theater as an institution nowadays, the role of theater in everybody's life. So yeah, again, listening is in a way the answer. And the third one I forgot, um,
so it was about what you have, what you leave with others, and what you take, I guess, from others.
which is again listening. So I
Yeah, that's okay. Listening is your philosophy, clearly.
and then of course you have to use what you gather, in a way, elaborate on that. I'm
Mm,
not saying trying to answer all people's needs, because you sometimes can't. We have been thinking a lot also about accessibility this year, because
mm,
we try and make our events linguistically accessible. We have sign language interpreters, we have overtitles, but of course, you can never be accessible to everyone. Okay, and this
mhm,
is also something that you need to take into account and simply accept the fact that you sometimes are speaking to different people. Um, but being there, being open, also to ask what people want from you, what you can actually give them. That's important, and we sometimes forget about this because we are too busy like writing grants, applications, and yeah, this is 90% of our works as cultural professionals. Still, it always comes down to this matter, like being there for the people, um, questioning your work, especially if you receive public funds. You are doing a public service. So, yeah, it's basically the same as providing water, infrastructures, institutions. I mean, you are there for the people. That's
mm. That's really beautiful. And it links right back to what you said at the beginning, saying that in your work, you're interested in placing the audience at the heart of what you do. Um, so it sounds like it's a real, like you mentioned in ecology, it's a real system that you have there, all fueled by Mount Etna. It's gorgeous, the picture you're painting. Um, Thank you so much, Valeria. That's amazing. We're going to think about some of the things we've spoken very briefly there about, some of the challenges that we're all facing as well, in the world at the moment, the system, the state of the world at the moment. Have you ever thought about, or how many times have you thought about quitting?
oh yeah.
And if so, I'll bring these together. If so, what was the moment that you realized that no, you could do it?
Hmm. Oh, especially at the beginning, because we started again with the project in 2022, um,
Mm,
and it was so hard, especially in Sicily, in terms. of like funds. So basically, the first 2 years we were working completely as volunteers. So it was just like the passion driving us. And it's a massive work, especially when you feel alone and when you are alone. Because I I had a day off, but I believed so much in the project that I had to continue. So yeah, I have thought several times of quitting. Like every single year, it was never again. It's not gonna happen. But then when the festival take place, ah, you feel so much more recharged, and you really understand you cannot but continue. Right now, I'm not thinking of quitting anymore. Even though I I mean I can also accept the fact that some days probably funds won't arrive, and so the project will just stop, and that's okay. Um, I feel happy. I feel satisfied. I did what I could, and so yeah, that's it.
That's great. And it's so, I'm sure it's something that many of our listeners can relate to, myself included. And I think that this is an ongoing challenge, but somehow the passion and yeah, that feeling of togetherness that you spoke about earlier and the value that comes from that shared experience, luckily gives us enough energy to continue. So it's really, yeah, it's really beautiful. And I'm sure it will encourage some people who might be listening. So thank you for sharing that. Um, okay. So what do you feel has been your biggest mistake that you've made? Would you be happy to share that with us? Because I think we all believe, and it's well known, obviously, that we can learn so much from mistakes. So, what's been your biggest mistake, Valerio?
Okay, so as I said, really trying to craft an event on the public's need may sometime make you think that you have to give to the audience what they're asking. Okay, I made this time this mistake and I programmed a work that I didn't really like, but I thought, okay, well, my audience, the audience can relate to that. But I didn't trust it fully. Okay. And oh, the audience didn't like it either.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, and that taught me a lot about what curating really is. And
Mm,
yeah, you're not there to make the public happy with your choice. I mean, you can never really fully foresee what the public would like. So you just need to trust on what you're doing, to really be aware of the fact that you are, in a way or another, creating impacts. So if you trust your guts, yeah, you're doing the right choice. You don't need to look for someone else's uh, confirmation. Okay. Mm.
absolutely. So, how did you deal with that when you realised that it wasn't the best choice that you'd made, perhaps?
um, well, I thought a lot about that. And this is what
Okay.
has turned into a teaching of some sort. So, and yeah, now I feel more and more courageous. We programmed pieces uh, with like a performer fully naked in a
Mhm.
public space, an open space with no ticket, and in Sicily, which is really risky actually. And the audience was so respectful, and we're talking about like 1,000 people because we have just huge theater, outdoor theater, and everyone was so respectful of the piece. And I'm not saying everybody liked it because it was really conceptual, but still, like if you're really believing in your choices, then I mean they work one way or another. So yeah.
Thank you so much for creating that platform. I think it's really, really important. And actually, I think you said earlier about people, I don't know the exact words, so sorry if I misquote, but you mentioned about people underestimating or doubting the audience's um, ability in some way to deal with certain works, and I think taking those risks and presenting challenging pieces of work can surprise us. Um, So yeah, that's beautiful to hear that it was respected. And I think if we can have respect and find that in large groups of people, then like you said earlier, there is still hope, which is beautiful.
Can I
Um,
just add one thing? Like
Please do,
caring
yeah.
also, because I don't want that this to be like and sound rhetoric, but still like caring for the audience, it actually means to me like also being there to shock them, to provoke them, and
Mm.
to yeah project some kind of discomfort on the audience, because that makes them really think about what they're attending. So yeah, sorry.
No, I think no, please don't. I mean, you're here to talk, so talk away. I think that it's a really valid point, and also where I live is quite a small area. It's quite a well, it's not small, but it's quite a an isolated area in some ways in terms of the work that we receive. And yeah, I think sometimes if people aren't exposed to certain types of work or contemporary approaches, they don't necessarily know how that makes them feel, or and it's not that's not about the individuals as audience members. It's just they haven't perhaps encountered certain work before. So actually giving people the opportunity to see that, to consider how that lands with them or how it makes them feel is really beautiful. So yeah, I think it's great to hear about the work that you're doing and the risks that you take, and also that is an element of caring for audiences and expanding perspectives really as well. So thank you for adding that. It's really valuable. The next well, we spoke earlier before off air, so to speak, about how we like to share. So Barcelona International Dance Exchange is constantly about sharing practice, sharing ideas, sharing thoughts, and we do that on our podcast by having a little exchange of questions. So this is where it gets to the fun bit. We would like to ask you, I'll give you a little moment to think about it. We'd like to ask you to ask a question, propose a question that our next interviewee must answer on their podcast. And whilst you're thinking about that, I'll also give you a question that came from our previous guest on the podcast, who is Zorana, who's based in Croatia. I won't give anything else away until that podcast is published. But she asked a very specific question, which is quite a personal question. But you can answer this, feel free to answer however you like. So she has asked what your salary is, Valerio, and if you consider that is well paid. So we're clearly talking here about the arts industry. And yeah, so I'm going to leave that question there for you to answer however you feel comfortable to answer.
Okay. So it uh it ranges between 1,300 and 1,400 a month. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I don't consider that to be well paid, even though, like it's basically like this is basically the standard throughout all Italy, like apart from like very big public funded institutions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, like living in Sicily makes it way easier. Still, yes, it is hard work. It requires also a lot of skills, a lot of time, and a lot of sacrifices also in the way the personal and professional dimension intertwine very often. Um, but but yeah, I mean, it's okay. I survive and I get to create hopefully uh nice things. So yeah, but you really need to be passionate to work in this field, especially in Italy.
To work in this profession, I know how sad. In an ideal world, how would that change for you?
Well, uh, if you could be certain of receiving funds, that would be much easier because it's a big risk. Like most of the time, you simply need to program work to carry out your activities, and then the following year you'll find out whether you have been granted access to funds, and
Mm.
then even later the fund will actually arrive. So it is really risky, and it can sometimes be really tough to go to bed and sleep, and just forget the thing that everything can just go horribly wrong.
yeah, it's almost like living on a metaphorical volcano, I think, in that sense. Just to make a very loose link back to your ecology again. Yeah, and I think it's really reassuring in some ways, as frustrating as it can be, that this is a global issue and it's a global conversation, and it's something that I think artists are incredibly talented at, that ability and ability to adapt and to reimagine and reinvent, just depending upon those decisions. And yeah, so I think a little bit more certainty or sustainability in funding decisions would be amazing, wouldn't it? And yeah, I second your statement about you must have passion. But then we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't, right? I think. Um, okay, amazing. So, have you thought about a question, or can you think about a question for our next guest?
So, since we have spoken about legacy,
Hmm.
I am going to ask, what is your legacy in a way? And what's the legacy of what you're doing? How can you imagine it like in the long run?
Yeah, really beautiful. And I think it's important for us to think about that as well. And yeah, and recognize the work that people are putting in. That's amazing. Thank you. Valerio, is there anything that you'd like to share with our listeners about how they can reach you, how they can contact you, how they can follow you?
Oh, yeah, you can find out more about the festival we're running on www.itercultura.eu. And, well, if you have the chance, come to Sicily and come to Mount Etna. That would be nice.
Amazing. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's gone really quickly, actually. I feel like I should have another whole page of questions to ask you, but it's been beautiful speaking to you. And I really wish you all the best for the continuation of all of the festivals. And I am sure that our paths will hopefully cross in Sicily. And thank you ever so much for joining us on the podcast today. It's been my absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Zoe. It was a pleasure talking to you.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Valerio.